I'm Danielle.
And I'm Rowena. How about you come with us now and we'll show you a bit about peace.
For those who thought that peace could only be brought about by protest and politics, the message is becoming clear that peace is the responsibility of every person. Peace begins when you make your home and workplace a happier place to be in. It begins when you feel peaceful, when you take time to consider others' points of view, when you smile at a stranger, when you patch up a strained relationship. Peace will begin for you when you spend a few minutes viewing this video and developing your own positive thoughts about peace.
This video was produced to bring to you some of the activities in Western New South Wales which reflect people's feelings and attitudes towards peace. These are real people and events. They're presented with the aim of sharing the idea and experience with you so you can widen your understanding of peace and know why so many people participated in this special year.
Throughout the program, we'll be showing you the viewpoints expressed by the range of children and adults on the peace issue. Settle back now and come with us on a peace journey throughout the west of New South Wales to see some of the activities that have been developed.
CARA is a centre noted for developing ties with other countries in its annual Festival of the Lachlan Valley. The festival develops the theme of international understanding and features a different guest nation each year.
It is, of course, a gesture of considerable goodwill and brotherhood that Australia, a sister member of the Commonwealth, should have, through the medium of your community, asked us to be the guest nation in 1986. It is impressive, I think, that a town with a population in the order of 10,000 or so should be able to mount a festival of this size every year with the theme of international understanding. It will be a great privilege for us Canadians to participate this week, to be here today in the Avenue of Flags near this auditorium, to plant a maple tree later on in Brome Park to survive as a permanent reminder of the association between our two countries.
And you've been involved with CARA's Festival of the Lachlan Valley virtually since its inception. How successful has it been in promoting the concept of international understanding?
Well, I think it's made a big step as far as CARA is concerned. It's quite a unique concept, the concept of having a guest nation each year, and to join with them in a week of cultural activity where we feature their art and their music and their culture to our children especially. Each year these children of the CARA schools plan or draw their idea of life in the guest country, and likewise the children in those countries send back their idea of life in Australia. And these exchanges have led to pen friends with the children in countries which have continued for quite some time, and I'm sure that the children have had a great deal of pleasure in exchanging those programs. Likewise, we have people from the embassies in Canberra come and spend a few days in CARA in the week before the festival, telling the students about their country and talking to them about their industry and commerce and trade, and also about the geography of their countries and their culture. And the children in this way become very well acquainted with the guest nation. And during the week of festival itself, we have speakers come to speak to the service clubs and various community organisations during the week, and the ambassador usually comes on at least 2 occasions to join with the local community in the festival princess crowning ceremony and at the official opening. The official opening is quite spectacular because at the opening we have the scouts and the guides and any exchange students that may be in our area come along and raise the flag of all the guest nations, so that last year we had 21 flags being raised in CARA at the official opening, which is a very impressive occasion. And those flags remain on display during the week, and they're taken down each evening by the scouts and flown again next morning, so that our people in CARA are reminded of their former association with so many guest nations. And also following the official opening, we have an avenue of international trees in our park, and the ambassador of the guest nation each year then plants a tree in honour of their country, And that international avenue of trees now creates a lot of interest, not only for our own people, but for people from the embassies who are passing through Cowra from time to time, usually called to see their tree and to pay their respects to our council.
Before I turn the first spadeful of earth, may I say as a kind of spontaneous little poem dedicated to those involved with the Lachlan Valley Festival. Blessed are those who plant a tree, not knowing for sure if they will live long enough to enjoy its shade, but doing it for others. Thank you very much.
It's how you play the game.
Peace means thinking of other people first and being considerate. I had a fight with my friend and they came around this morning and I said sorry to them and they said sorry to me and we made friends again.
Peace means to be kind to other people. Peace belongs to everyone in the world, and Jesus and God made peace, and Jesus and God loves the way peace goes along.
The Peace Bus driving for disarmament was in Orange today. It's the double-decker bus's second visit to Orange in just over a year, but today's tour of Orange Canobolas and James Sheehan High Schools attracted considerable interest.
It was smart for some teenagers to say the bus was boring, but on closer examination, the school students were impressed by the colour, the videos and other displays of information about peace issues. What do you think of the Peace Bus?
It's good, you get education out of it, and
What did you learn?
that war starts just over little things. It just starts over tiny things like fighting and that, people fighting in backyards now.
And you against nuclear bombs and nuclear arms?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's just a waste of time. You don't learn anything off it.
Are you scared that a nuclear bomb might go off and just blow up the world?
Yeah.
Coordinator David Worth says the bus is primarily educational and at least 30,000 people have been through since the bus started touring late in 1984. Mr Worth says he believes it gives people the motivation to do something about peace in this, the International Year of Peace.
Well, whether it's the Central West, Sydney or Brisbane, there's always been an incredible enthusiasm about the bus and also a real genuine desire to find out some information about the issues and what people can do, because I think people realise it's a pretty horrible problem to solve and that a lot of people feel that nothing can be done. And so what we're trying to do is present positive things that they can do. Even just wearing a badge, I think, makes an effect.
Do you think you can do anything about it?
Probably.
What can you do?
We could write to all the...
Send some letters
with
to
a
Gorbachev
partition
and
to all the prime ministers of the countries and that. To further links with Japan, Cowra has developed a student exchange scheme.
What other programs has Cowra been involved with that promote the cause of peace and understanding?
Well, I'm pleased that Cowra has, through my introduction of a student exchange program with a high school in Tokyo, and this is the 15th year of an exchange program on a yearly basis.
And how many students would have been involved over that time, Ab?
Well, we've had 15 Japanese students to Cowra and they've had 15 Cowra students to Japan. They stay for 12 months and stay in the home of families, usually 3 families in each case, during their tour. This has had a great effect on peace, I think, between our countries, because the students have been very impressed in both cases by living with families and understanding the family life and getting to know typical Australian life. We find that they've become great ambassadors for our country, and this also applies to the Japanese students who've come to Cowra.
And what does the town gain out of these exchanges? Do the students then speak to people in the town of their experiences?
Yes, Cowra High School has always accepted the students in an extremely friendly manner, and I've talked with them, taken them to their homes and involved them in all the school activities, and I think it's been a good thing for the school to be exposed to international relationships, and I'm quite sure that it has had an effect on the children. It has made them more aware of the world about them, and I think that they realise that we should all live together peacefully in this world.
I love Australia.
And how have you found the people have treated you in Australia? Have you enjoyed working with the students at Kara High School?
Yes, they are very kindly for me. Usually Japanese people is shy, so we cannot try to talk to other people, but they are trying to talk with me and they ask and everything, so I'm very glad.
Since I've been in Australia, I cooked Japanese meal for my friends and we could understand to each other, and I can talk to everyone who live in Australia.
Mike, is the food very different?
Yes, you have to eat raw fish.
I feel that the exchange programs are really good because you can go to other countries and learn about their culture, and it really helps you to understand the working and the thinking of the other people.
Thank you to all of you for making my stay so enjoyable. 1 year goes so quickly, too quickly for me. I'd like to stay more, but I must go home. I'd like to say thank you to all of you for your friendship and kindness. I will never forget you, and hopefully I'd like to return to Australia sometime in the future. Thank you.
Michael, how do you think that you could help promote the cause of peace as an individual?
I could promote peace by just the way I act, and other students, the way I speak towards them, and with exchange students, by showing them a bit of kindness, it travels overseas and it spreads from there.
What do you think the world will be like in the year 2000?
I believe that if the world goes along a good cause, and we maintain peace, the world could be a wonderful place with advance in technology, and new standards of living should be great. But if peace is unattainable and we do end up in a war, life as we know it will not exist. It'll be devastated. I would hope that the superpowers can come to the senses and realise that it would be too devastating for the world and that no one could win a nuclear war. So hopefully there won't be.
Molan community has also become actively involved in developing close links with Japan from its Friendship Society.
The team visit is all about making friends. To our team, it is a visit to an international country, an overseas country, living with a different culture in the homes of people of a different culture, making friends, renewing old friends, because we had the 25-member Japanese team here last August.
Tanya and Neil, you're just back from your visit to Japan, and I believe you've had a really marvellous time. Now, before you left, Tanya, what were you hoping you'd get out of the trip?
The main thing that I wanted to achieve was to see their different culture and the main way they lived, and to meet different people.
Now, can you tell me what impressed you most about Japan?
The hospitality of the people. They took us into their homes and showed us everything that they could, and our days were really full. They just took us everywhere and looked after us so well.
Bob, you were in Kara today for the Japanese opening of the gardens. How are you involved in this program?
I'm here today with a group from Nara in Japan, who are connected to the Nara Japan-Australia Friendship Society. They are staying in Molong and connected with our program of visitation by young people to create better friendships, better understanding, and through this, peace between our nations.
The second and final stage of the Japanese Gardens and Cultural Centre in Kara have been completed. It said when this section grows to its full potential, it will equal any garden of similar size in Japan.
The Japanese Gardens and Cultural Centre were constructed to symbolise the relationship between Kara and Japan, begun in war, and now representing the bonds of friendship between the two countries. More than 230 Japanese perished in 1944 in the famous breakout at the Kara prisoner of war camp. After a service this morning at the nearby war cemetery, the official opening of the gardens took place. It was attended by the Vice-Governor of Tokyo Metropolis, Tetsuo Kando, hundreds of guests, and Premier Barry Unsworth.
However, the tragedy of Kara has been the catalyst
for the forging of bonds of friendship between our two peoples. It is our fervent wish that this district of Cowra and the peace and tranquility of this beautiful garden is never again disturbed by the horrors of war.
The gardens have been faithfully designed to traditional style by Japanese landscape architects and have not only been a major regional attraction, but have drawn thousands of overseas visitors since the first stage was completed. One of the driving forces behind the project is the president of the Cowra Tourist and Development Corporation, Don Kibler. He says there were many problems encountered in Stage 2's construction.
All sorts of problems. We've tried to do it so authentically it almost became impossible, but then if it wasn't correct then it wouldn't mean us so much. So we have got a piece of Japan in Australia.
You have achieved what you set out to?
We think so.
Justine, what does peace mean to you?
Peace means tolerance of people and of nature, and I also believe that peace means multilateral disarmament. Peace, I believe, begins in a small scale. That means in the community where people can get together and talk about peace, and then maybe if we put all of these small communities together, you could change the minds of people in higher positions.
And on a small scale, have you at Cowra High School been involved in any projects that have helped to promote peace in your community or further?
Yes, in our 2-unit general course we have done a peace project and just studied peace altogether and made everybody aware of peace in the world.
Who do you admire as a peace worker and why?
I believe Bishop Desmond Tutu in South Africa is a great peace worker as he is trying to increase the white people's tolerance of black people, and that's very important as tolerance is the key to peace in the world.
Just as it is important to understand other cultures and countries outside Australia, it is vital that we appreciate the many multicultural aspects of our own country. The provision of Aboriginal studies in schools is one of the positive steps in this regard.
Since 1982, most schools, particularly those with large numbers of Aboriginal students, have been working out their own school-based Aboriginal education policies. By 1987, schools will include elements of Aboriginal studies in all areas of the curriculum. Aboriginal perspectives will become part of every subject. 31 Aboriginal students from Warren Central School spent 4 days at the Wambangalang Field Studies Centre near Dubbo as part of their Aboriginal Studies course. They heard stories about the local area, learnt about traditional weapons and artefacts, and took part in Aboriginal craft activities. They were assisted by Jeanette Nolan, Field Officer for PEP, Beryl Philp Carmichael, a member of the Western Region Aboriginal Education Task Force, and the staff at the Field Studies Centre. Graham Dennison, teacher at Warren Central, told us why he'd brought his students to Wambangalang.
We're trying to develop an Aboriginal policy through the school from kinder to year 12. At the moment we have an Aboriginal Studies class or another approved study in year 9 and 10, and we're working on a K to 6 social studies policy, and we've got 1 unit of social studies that each kid will do in each year from kinder to year 6. Aboriginal education is something we think is very important and believe that this is a good starting point.
Wambangalang Field Studies Centre is rich in resources for teaching Aboriginal studies. Teacher in charge, Bob Newton.
For a start, we feel environmental education and Aboriginal studies are directly linked. And of course this gives us a great lead in. Also we have a considerable artefact collection which we're getting together, and that's on display now. It's an area that we've got to be careful with because there are some artefacts that should be shown and some that shouldn't be shown. But the children get a lot out of just seeing what great craftsmen their forefathers were.
A highlight of the camp was an excursion by bicycle to nearby Turtle Mountain. Jeanette Nolan told us that the area was a very special place for her.
It's very special to me because my people were here for years and years, and my grandmother was shifted here from one place, from out of a tribal area, onto a station, and then from the station she was shifted from there to here. And this is where she was brought up, and she brought my father and his brothers and sisters up, and she told them all the stories about how the birds came to be and, you know, all the the legends, the Aboriginal legends.
Do you know anything about Aboriginal things before your days?
The people that were here, the tribe people that were here, was the Wiradjuri people, and they were one of the largest tribes in Australia. There were about 20 tribes in with the Wiradjuri. And you've got the Dubbo Wiradjuri and the Pika Wiradjuri and the Cowra Wiradjuri, and they all pronounce Wiradjuri different, and it's also spelled different. When they started stopping us and we had to go and get permission to come here, that's when we stopped coming here. I haven't been here for ages. And the same as Mum and Dad, and that's really sad because this meant so much to us. Even though I never lived here, I can still feel it every time I come here. You feel a real goodness inside you, you know?
Boys and girls, the best way of finding out about Aboriginal people that lived in this area is to go back to your communities and talk to the older people in your communities, as well as the old graziers and farmers around that lives around this area, because they've had Aboriginal people working for them for a long time. Some of the Aboriginal people grew up with their own children. So we must not overlook the old cockies and graziers in our regions and areas, because they can tell us lots of stories about what the Aboriginal people passed on to them. And I'm finding it very interesting when I go around in my area, because this is they are helping me a lot in recording and documenting the history of my people.
Now we're going to do some bark painting, like the old people did. And to use the bark paint, for the paints, we're going to use ochres. And you find the ochres next to the rivers, the white ochres and the red ochres, and I found these ones next to the railway line in Dubbo on the Manor Road. One of the things I did with the children that they really enjoyed was teaching them to paint with the ochres, the natural paints that the old people used to use. And I taught them how to sharpen the sticks and to use the sticks like the old people did. And most of them did traditional art, but a lot of them did contemporary too, and that's really good because people just, when you say Aboriginal art, they just think of the traditional art, and not many of them think of the contemporary.
Beryl showed students how to make dilly bags from string.
They didn't have any shops to go and buy their string to make their nets to trap the small animals and birds, or nets to make their dilly bags or whatever, string to make their dilly bags. So they had to look for resources in their own areas. And lots of areas in New South Wales have stringy bark trees right at the top of where it's really wet. And up the Northern Territory, all around the coastal region, they got stringy bark trees. They just pull the strings off the bark off the trees and do it. But our people out in the far western region, because it was much drier, the climate out there, and the only place where they could get the string from was the wilga trees, the roots from the wilga trees or the willow trees that used to grow around the edge of the river or lagoons.
At Warren Central School, Aboriginal Studies is open to all pupils. This is the first year that we've run it as another approved study in Year 9, and we have a majority of Aboriginal kids understandably taking it this year. But we hope to develop it and to encourage it, and I think there's such a wealth of knowledge available that by a little bit of PR and selling it, I think will encourage non-Aboriginal people to become involved with it too.
The thing that I wanted most to happen from this camp was for them to go back to their own areas and find out where their people come from, what their language was. And a couple of the kids have already said to me that that's what they're going to do. Go back and talk to the old people.
Peace begins with us and everybody else. I think we have an International Year of Peace so that everyone can be friends and rejoice with each other and celebrate.
I think we have an International Year of Peace because no one wants to get blown up and everyone's trying to promote world peace.
An art and literature exhibition with the theme of peace and to remember Hiroshima is currently on display in the foyer of the Government Office Block in Bathurst. The display is the first of its kind in the town, and with the response so far, Bathurst could see the exhibition compiled into a book and becoming an annual event.
300 works from school students from all over the Central West are on display for this, the International Year of Peace. The exhibition also coincides with Hiroshima Day. International Year of Peace organiser Narelle Burrows.
In 1985, we began the idea came out of a peace group meeting that we have an art exhibition for students in the Bathurst region and invite all schools to participate. Because we had such a tremendous response to that, we thought that International Year of Peace we would have a similar exhibition, except this time we'd invite entries in the field of literature as well, including short stories, prose and poems, and the response has been tremendous, we're happy to say.
The message is clear. Peace is like a dove flying high and no bombs falling from the sky. And another, don't push the button.
The main concern was that students felt that perhaps when they reached adulthood that they wouldn't be able to experience the wonders of the world that they can now as an adult. And that concern was very evident in the literature, and that we should value what we have now and not let it escape by a silly mistake.
And there's a possibility of a book being published from the exhibition. Can you tell me some details about that?
We're hopeful that we can use the entries that we have, particularly the literature entries, to put together, to compile a book to go around to schools in the region as stimulus material, so that students can begin to think about the sorts of things that they may not have thought about before regarding peace studies. And we thought there would be particularly of great benefit to have actual students' words in front of them, so that they're not always reading adult literature, but they can see that there are other people around them of the same age who have very deep feelings about peace.
Do you see that the exhibition will become a regular thing?
I hope so. Seeing it's been such a great success, I would like to see that it continued.
Joanne, what do you think the world will be like in the year 2000?
I think that the world will probably blow up in the end because of all these nuclear bombs, and that we'll have machines everywhere.
I think in the year 2000 it won't be so much war and things, if we hope so.
And what's one way that we could ensure there won't be war, do you think?
By trying to tell the prime ministers and leaders don't make nuclear weapons.
Ian, could you tell us about one peace leader that you think is significant today?
I reckon Ian Burke's, because he went to Russia and he's been asking most of the governments can we please have peace? And he's only a boy around about our age.
In the small towns of Tottenham and Tullamore, the community and students were involved in a number of peace activities. The writing and performing of songs with a peace message was a highlight of their celebrations.
Yellow Mountain near Tottenham, filming got underway this week for a music clip featuring in the International Year of Peace video. The band was made up of teachers and locals from the Tottenham district who composed their songs and decided on the setting to demonstrate the beauty of countryside unaffected by man-made disasters. But, like the ideal of peace, it wasn't easy to reach the mountaintop. It took quite a deal of effort to get the band instruments, recording film equipment and power generators, along with the band and crew, to the summit. A number of students also accompanied the band and put forward their ideas on peace. The video, produced by the Communication and Resources Project and funded by the Foreign Affairs Department, is due for release in December. It will be available for borrowing, at this stage free, from a variety of video outlets.
The first song that we played this afternoon, the song called Presidents, it's quite a direct statement to the leaders of different countries in the world that our fate really is in the hands of a very few people. And the song is a direct statement to them, saying that we can't explain what you're doing, really. What you're doing is sort of not what we particularly want. It's saying that we hold you responsible for our lives and our children and our children's lives and so on. It's a direct statement to the presidents of different countries, not only America, USSR, France, Australia, any country at all that that is at the moment supporting the arms race. What do you think, Brad?
Presidents is a very direct song, and as much as it's simplified in its lyrical content, the idea behind it really is just to simply come out and say that these presidents are the people who control our lives. Australia isn't controlling myself or any of these people here. It's forces that are bigger and more powerful than Australia that are controlling our lives. And as Justin said, we want to hold these people accountable for what's happening, and we're wondering when they're going to get off this express train of who can be in front of who, and come back to the realisation that we're all the same on this earth, and that to live together we mustn't be under threat. And while ever we're under a threat, we will retaliate. We have in every other war, in every other situation. The result of being under threat is a retaliation. Eventually, when the problem gets to that stage, we'll retaliate. And presidents is so simple and so direct that's why we like the song. That's why we play the song, and we enjoy playing the song, because it's in language that people understand. We're simply saying to them, presidents, what have you done? What are you doing for us? You're not doing anything for us. All you're doing is making us wonder every day, is it another step closer? Or are they finally going to wake up and say, we've got to stop this now because it's snowballing so much? The second song we did, For Our Love, that's what it means. It was a song that Justin wrote, and he came to us and he says, look, I know this might sound a little bit soppy to people, you know, for our love, but that's the whole point of the whole issue, is that it's for our love. We supposedly have a love between ourselves, whether it be relations of yours or whether you're a friend with your neighbour or whoever it is. It might be someone on the other side of the world. Until people learn to love themselves first and to love their neighbours as much, we'll live under this threat for the whole time. And the song that Justin had written, For Our Love, seemed to spell out to our band a message that we couldn't quite put words on at one stage, but when the song was written and we had spent some time on it, we really realised what Justin was getting at, and it was something that we really agreed on, is that it is for our love.
Depend on me, depend on us, depends on you, for our love, for our love, oh yeah, for our love, oh yeah, for our love, oh yeah, for our love. Depend on me, depend on us, depends on you, for our love,
All right, as a final question up here, we must find out why we've come up here to Yellow Mountain out of all the places in New South Wales to film these clips.
I think the Yellow Mountain was a ideal place to come, as David had it right in his backyard, and as the video was made about peace and goodwill, it was such a nice peaceful atmosphere out here, it was hard to go past.
I'd have to agree with Michael about it being hard to go past, because we've only been up here for a matter of hours now, and I'm sure everyone in the group here, and the time that they've spent here, has spent a little bit of time just to have a look out from here. And this is supposed to be a pretty flat place in New South Wales, but when you look out over it now and you look at all the wheat fields and the farms that are operating in the area and stuff like that, you can't help but think, you know, what a beautiful place we've got and how necessary it is for us to protect it, not just for over the next 20 years or 100 years, but for as long as we can inhabit this earth. We've got to protect this place. It's just beautiful.
Do you think there'll be a nuclear war in the future?
Definitely, unless something positive is done now.
Do you think Australia would be involved in such a war?
Definitely, I think there's no country in the world that can escape the influence of nuclear war.
What do you see as the deterrents to war?
I think people power is the main one, but also it is the leaders frightened of the other people pushing the button as well as them.
I believe the deterrents to war are the fears of total annihilation, the fears of destroying millions of years of Mother Nature, the fear of dying and causing pain and discomfort for millions of others.
I think the nuclear threat's already just started to begin, because take Chernobyl for instance, that's only one of the many thousands and thousands of nuclear reactors.
Developing an awareness of the environment and the joys of recording were a part of an IYY art camp held at Broken Hill.
We accompany 36 art students from schools throughout Western Region when they attend a specially funded International Youth Year art camp at Broken Hill. The week was filled with activities organised by art teachers to give students as much information as possible about the Broken Hill art scene and to provide them with opportunities to apply and improve their own art skills.
Francis Miller, you're the IYY State Coordinator and you're also an art teacher. What do you think of this activity for students in IYY Year?
Oh, I think it's excellent. It reflects the themes of International Youth Year in everything we've done. It's the themes are, of course, participation, development and peace, and we've really participated. We've been working hard and looking at artists working, looking at artists of different sorts, European and Aboriginal artists. We've looked at the sites, we've looked at the area. It's fantastic from the participation point of view. Development means that kids are developing to their own potential, and not only in an art sense, it's in interpersonal relations and meeting other places and meeting other cultures. So, and peace, when you get the first two, you end up with the last one. So kids who can get along with each other, we'd hope, would have a sense of responsibility to each other and therefore to the world and to peace.
Doing this all in Broken Hill, it's a very remote place. Now, do you think that was a good idea?
Well, it was a wonderful idea for me. I loved it because I had a chance to get away from Sydney, my usual environment, but I would imagine it would be like that for students from other areas in this region. They too would get away from their usual environment and see another part and the way other people live and where they live and what it's like and what it looks like.
And where do you think peace begins and who's responsible for it?
Well, peace begins within yourself, and then I feel if you can join other groups, other peace groups or youth groups, you're also expanding your own peace, and from there you can take it to higher places like the government, which should help in the long run in presenting peace to everyone around the world. One way I feel Cara High presents peace is we've got friendly activities going on between countries. We often have exchange students come over from America, Germany and Japan, which really helps the students within the school to communicate with other countries.
The ability to communicate, put forward good ideas and resolve differences are important aspects of peace. All these are fostered in the annual youth forums.
Each year, students from schools throughout New South Wales and sometimes interstate gather for the annual Youth Forum. Youth Forum recognises that today's young people are important to the future of our country. It tries to encourage them to make their views known to decision makers and to take part in the decision-making process. The forum is well placed to ensure the voice of young people is heard on the many serious issues affecting them.
Try and tell the world just how we feel. Let them know the kids are real, just to help them understand.
Well, I'm sure we can come to some agreements. Thank you.
Tell me just some of the things that you have been doing.
You've been running specific workshops called Getting to Know You workshops, which is trying to just break down a bit of the barriers between participants, but also we've been trying to run skills workshops, which is things like getting people to have an action plan that they can take home to their local community, where they can have some input into their community and hopefully take something back from Youth Forum that'll help them when they get home.
And for individual children, what do you hope that individual children get from coming to Youth Forum?
I think what we're looking to do is to give kids the confidence and the skills and the resources to speak on their own behalf and to participate more in the society in which they live in. I believe that kids have those sort of skills and resources. All we've got to do is give them a bit of help to do it.
Through Rotary in the Forbes area, students are given the opportunity to polish their skills at debating and resolving conflicts in a mini United Nations Assembly.
I'd just like to say that Antarctica would be much better off being an international possession. If countries are fighting for little pieces of Antarctica, it will only lead to warfare. What exactly do those who do have territorial claims to Antarctica mean by scientific research? Nuclear research is scientific research. How are we to know that these countries will not carry out nuclear research on Antarctica?
I'm looking for speakers from countries that have not yet debated on this topic.
Today we have something for all those people interested in public speaking or debating. We're going to show you what it would be like to take part in one of the most formal public speaking forums in the world, the United Nations Assembly. For the last 3 years, Forbes Rotary Club has organised a model United Nations Assembly as part of its annual youth program. Last year being International Youth Year, a special effort was made. 76 students from 10 different high schools in Rotary District 970 took part in the Assembly, which was held over a weekend at Forbes High School. We found the Assembly was a very faithful model of the real United Nations Assembly. 2 student delegates represented each country. They worked through a prepared agenda of resolutions, guided by Rotarian Dominic Williams, who saw that debating procedures were strictly followed at all times.
I'll put the motion for dissent.
Warren Brown, principal of Forbes North Primary School and member of the Forbes Rotary Club, told us about the organisation of the Assembly.
The Assembly involves an invitation to all Rotary clubs in Rotary District 970, which stretches from Bathurst and Orange to Hay, to Wagga, Condobolin, in that area. Rotary clubs approach their local secondary schools, and the participants come from secondary schools in those areas. After expressing interest, we allocate the countries to the various schools. From there, the schools research the various facts about the country that they're going to represent, and then come along to the Assembly. Our committee that organises the Model United Nations Assembly draws up resolutions which are distributed to the students for them to research. As the name implies, it is a Model United Nations Assembly, and which is a very formal organisation. One of the things we're trying to expose the students to is correct meeting procedure, debating skills and things like this.
start the debate.
Portugal feels that Russia should withdraw from Afghanistan and the United Nations should organise a government to be ready to step in as soon as Russia withdraws.
Thank you. I'm asking for a speaker against this motion. The USSR, you wish to speak against this motion? You have the floor.
The Soviet Union was invited into Afghanistan to protect them from rebels, so he came and helped them. They want us here, you ask them, and well, it's not really the United Nations business. Should really want to know about it. They asked us to come in, so we came in to protect them from rebels. And they want us there still, so we're staying.
The USSR has improved its internal situation of disruption caused by the rebels.
Susan, how did you find out your information about Afghanistan?
Well, it was really hard to find it because there's no embassy in Australia, so basically we had to find it from libraries, basically the Red Band Library, and old encyclopedias or relatively new magazines.
And you found a lot out about Russia. I guess that was easier.
Oh, yeah, even though it's behind the Iron Curtain, they give so much of their stuff away. We wrote to the embassies.
Those in favour of that motion are to raise their right hand.
Really? Do you think you've learnt more about how the United Nations works?
Yeah, I think we have, because it's something that you have to go into before you come here, so you can understand it. I think the main thing I would have gained out of it is that, well, a lot of us here would have been debaters, but when you're debaters, you have your speeches ready, and here you've got to think on the spur of the moment, and it's right here and now, and there's no writing speeches beforehand.
Very enjoyable. It's fun, and it sort of brings people together. Well, we're all from different towns.
It gives you a broad range of being able to do public speaking and just learning more about the countries. I never knew much about Afghanistan, and I've learnt a whole lot from it.
You get to learn to understand other people, about the way of thinking, and you also get to perhaps understand the philosophies of other countries, because you've really got to get into the part, and it's often said that to be like another person, get in their shoes, and I feel I've learned a lot about the Chinese people through learning about their country and their culture.
Since I live in Australia, I don't know much about my country's political issues, so this gives me a chance to research into the political issues of my country and to find out their views, and it really helps to understand more of my country.
Peace means to me that there's not any war, and that you should start it in your own home and then work it out, then go around in circles from home to school and everywhere, and keep on going until there's peace everywhere.
In our classroom, we think about peace, and we have 1 minute of peace every day.
The United Nations Day of Peace was observed in Orange today with a short ceremony at Cook Park. Fiona Mackenzie reports the ceremony also marked the first day of an ambitious international peace project.
A minute doesn't seem very much, but a group of people from the Central West believe it could make all the difference. At noon today, they ignored the rain and gathered here in Cook Park to participate in the worldwide launch of the Million Minutes of Peace project.
The aim of the month-long project is to gather 1 million minutes of peace from the citizens of each of the 50 participating nations. In Orange, around 20 people paused for 1 minute around the peace pole in Cook Park. Orange International Year of Peace Committee member Alan Newbury says the Million Minutes of Peace concept has really taken off in the Central West.
It seems to have really captured people's imagination because it dispels the myth that the ordinary person can't do anything. Here's something people can do in their own time, in their own space, and make a real practical contribution to world peace.
Would you have liked to see more people here in Cook Park today?
I know I was quite pleased with the response, particularly because of the rain. If people are prepared to come out, well, that's good.
Plants need peace to grow, because if there wasn't peace, the ground wouldn't be like it should be and like it is now.
Two activities in Cowra at the weekend marked International Year of Peace. One was a tree planting, the other a display of an ancient martial art.
The majority of members of the very active Cowra Peace Group were present for the tree planting at the park adjacent to Cowra Aerodrome. Over 200 trees were planted, mostly natives, and they were all given special attention by young and older gardeners alike. Local peace group spokesman Mike Giblin believes the planting has a special significance for all concerned.
We wanted to involve as many families as we could. We wanted to have children and families. We wanted to get an article in the paper, sort of inviting anyone that wanted to come along to come and plant a tree for peace with their family and with their children, so that their children could watch it grow and be involved with it and feel part of a year of peace.
And you see, when people come along here, all these people driving along, they'll be able to look at all these beautiful trees around here, and they'll think of how lovely and peaceful they look, and they'll remember, won't they, that we should be trying to make peace on the earth. Don't you think that's good?
I think that the motto to think globally and act locally is very important, because people can think within themselves and act within their own home, school or community, and from that hopefully their ideas and their feelings about peace will spread further afield, and so that by influencing their local area they can hopefully then begin to influence things on a larger scale.
What would you say to other towns considering forming such a group?
I think all towns should have some form of peace group to raise awareness of peace issues in their town and to work within their local communities to develop and further the cause of peace.
At nearby Cowra Japanese Gardens, the backdrop was perfect for a display of the traditional art of Japanese sword fighting. It again was part of a Year of Peace program designed to promote goodwill between countries. And although it doesn't look all that peaceful, President of the Australian Kendo Federation, Ron Bennett, says it looks more aggressive than it really is.
The origin of Kendo, of course, is derived from the art of the samurai, but they were sort of knocking each other about too much, so they had advised some other way of practice, and this is finally what it is, this sports situation where we use a bamboo sword instead of a real sword. Within the areas of Kendo, it's the only sport I know where you can really get stuck into each other and nobody gets hurt.
The Cootamundra community and all its schools made a significant contribution to peace awareness in its procession of 1,000 paper cranes.
All schools in the district were involved and they were very keen to participate, and that was what made the procession so successful today.
Why did all the students carry the cranes?
The peace crane idea was one that was brought forward by one of the primary school teachers. The peace cranes revolve around a young girl called Sadako in Hiroshima during the World War II. When the bomb was dropped in Hiroshima, she was injured, and for the next 10 years she gradually got worse due to radiation sickness. Within that 10 years she tried to fold as many Japanese cranes or peace cranes as she could, the Japanese tradition being that if you manage to fold 1,000 cranes then you will have your deepest wish, and of course her deepest wish was health, but this wasn't to come about as she only ended up folding about 644. So the rest of her schoolmates got together and made the 1,000 up. That was then buried with her, the 1,000 cranes, and they also managed to raise enough money to build a peace monument to Sadako in Hiroshima Peace Park. And we collected the cranes today and they will be sent to Japan to Hiroshima Peace Park. They will then be put around the base of the monument and photographed, and we will receive this photograph as well as a list of all the other schools throughout the world who have been involved in this peace crane mission. When did you get the idea for a procession?
I got the idea for this school in about April, but the idea originally came from the school I was at last year, which was Hayward Memorial High School, where we had a procession for the International Year of Youth up the main street of Hay. And I thought, what better way to show that we support the idea of peace in the town than having a procession at the end of Education Week this year.
In what ways can you help to promote world peace? One of the ways to bring countries together is through sport. And if we, through things like Olympics and Commonwealth Games, we all come together as friends and symbolises peace.
Though time and oceans apart, I know in your heart you'll carry the flame. It's no matter if you win or lose, my friend, it's how you play the game. Though time and oceans apart, I know in your heart you'll carry the flame. It's no matter
Awareness and acceptance of others shows a true understanding and caring attitude which is fundamental to peace.
Medal for putting up tents last night because I was very clever.
Well, you won't win any medals at this camp. None of the disabled kids are allowed to do anything.
Why?
Why do you think? Because they can't do anything.
Why?
Because they're not allowed.
But I like doing things.
Well, I don't. I can't do anything. I just let everyone do everything for me.
Oh, just like a baby.
Pick it up!
Why can't you?
Because I don't know how to use those crutches, that's why.
Oh, well, they're easy, Silver.
Why do children need to know about peace?
I think children need to know about peace because although they're children today, in the future they'll be the ones running the country and they'll have to have a say in what happens.
I think peace begins with each individual at home and in the community.
Peace means that we hope the world is lovely and being nice to one another.
I think we could make countries of the world more aware of peace by talking to them, writing letters, holding concerts.
During Children's Week, students from Bathurst and District Schools adopted the theme of peace for their Day in the Park activities.
Doreen, could you tell us a little bit about today's activities?
Yes, the committee formed in April and we had representatives from many of the schools in Bathurst, and the idea was to hold the day for Children's Week, culminating today, and we chose the theme International Year of Peace and Peace in the Park.
And what do you think the children have got out of participating today?
Well, when I've been speaking to the children, they certainly know that it's because of International Year of Peace, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity for all of the children in Bathurst to come together. It's a very few occasions that we can share an activity together and get so much enjoyment and fun. That's mainly it, fun.
So you hope for the children to get more than just taking part in art and craft activities?
Most definitely. I think the underlying theme is that children enjoy it, they're more aware of the peace and more aware of our park in the centre of town. It's a lovely atmosphere for children to come along and have a good time.
Our present society contains many ills which must be cured if true peace is to prevail. Programs such as the Life Education Van are tackling some of the major problems confronting today's society.
I suppose we have to realise that there is one task facing the world. I believe it's this task. How can we keep the world safe for our children? That's the only question that I believe should concern adults today. How can we keep the world safe for the children of the 21st century? They're at risk through nuclear war, they're at risk through hunger and poverty, they're at risk through disease. But needlessly, in a beautiful country like Australia, they're at risk through involvement in drug abuse. And I believe that the task is therefore a very simple one, to keep the world safe for our children so that they'll enter the 21st century full of their health and happiness, and they'll be able to make a world that is more beautiful than we've ever dreamed possible. That's the real main thrust of the work of the Life Education Centre at the Wayside Chapel.
Well, that was just a small sample of peace happenings in Western New South Wales. Hopefully the message is coming through loud and clear. The peace does begin with you and me. It really does depend on us if we're to set things right.
All the people you've seen in this video have put their ideas into worthwhile plans and actions. Will you become involved in peace?
No matter how small your contribution may be, start making an effort now. You're well on the way if you've found peace within yourself and you're willing to share and encourage peace with others.
Okay, I'd like to welcome people here today for the opening of the Peace video. My name's Paul Kirkpatrick, I'm the coordinator of CARA Peace Group. I'd like to welcome our guest today, Ab Oliver, who's representative of the Council and Chairman of the Japanese Gardens Committee, Don Kibler, who is President of the Tourist and Development Committee and Chief Organiser and Fundraiser of Stage 2 of the Japanese Gardens, and all our other distinguished guests. I have a few apologies for today, including Stella Cornelius, Director of IYP, who wishes us all the best and commends us on our efforts in getting this video together. David Simmons, the MP for Clare, and his wife Kay, are also an apology. And first of all, I'd like to call on Bruce Ryan, the producer of the video, to speak about it.
The video contains many people and groups in central, west and southern New South Wales. And I think what gives the video its appeal is that it represents real people and events. It wasn't a contrived video of just staging things, it was actually a record of things that happened in the area. And I think that is a very good point in seeing reality captured on video.
This is why I feel very strongly about international years, because I'm sure that they raise community awareness of the needs of children, of disabled people, and they raise the awareness of people about peace, that peace activities are all around us, and if we bring up our children in a peaceful environment, well then we're certainly headed for world peace. Congratulations to everybody who was involved in the video. Thank you.
I saw this video as an opportunity to participate in the International Year of Peace. When I was asked to be on the video, I jumped at the opportunity, and I would just like to thank Bruce Ryan on behalf of the four of us that were on the video for allowing us to become involved.
With so many problems confronting peace worldwide, it is important that local peace groups think globally yet act locally. This video will help to get examples of the positive local activities of Western New South Wales peace groups to a wider audience Australia-wide. Peace that depends on us will therefore help to promote peace well after this International Year of Peace. So on behalf of the peace groups featured in the video, I'd like to thank all those who provided a step in the making of the video. As any step taken has to be a step in the right direction for peace. Thank you.
I'm very privileged to be asked to perform this duty today because peace has always been one of the things that I've thought a great deal about, and I'm proud to be associated with people who are keen to see peace in the world, and it must start, as Bruce says, from ourselves. I congratulate Bruce and his team and Mrs. Jeremy on having the initiative and the dedication to gather this video together and to visit the various areas and to shoot and take so many, yards of film to make up the program. It's very appropriate, of course, that we should be meeting today, as Bruce said, just before Christmas, when we're all thinking of peace and goodwill, and also when we're meeting in this beautiful area, which reminds us so much of peace and tranquility. And I must congratulate the organisation on the theme of peace. It depends on us, because as Bruce says, peace is an individual thing. If we're interested in peace and we get together and talk about it and we talk to other people and we take it a little bit further to our various avenues of association, well then we're going to make an impact on the world. Friendship and goodwill can best be established by us ourselves. If we're keen to establish it, we can influence other people then and encourage them to do so and to join us. Much of the tension in the world today could be dispelled if we could meet on a personal and family basis to learn and discuss the history, the culture and the problems of other people and to mix with them. I think it's a great tribute to Bruce and to the CARP organisation and to Mrs. Jeremy and so many other people who've got together to produce this video, which should be, I think, an inspiration to us and a reminder to us that there are so many things that we can do to help in our own small way to establish peace throughout the world. So I have very much pleasure indeed in launching the video.